Okay, so in this video, I am going to be showing you guys how, or demonstrating to you guys, how you are going to think like a metaphysical determinist to unpack the causal chain or set of causal chains that have led to your taking Philosophy 1301 as an online class. So, you're probably going to have to unpack at least two sets of causal chains. And one is going to be with really unpacking, writing two or three sentences about what led to your taking Philosophy 1301 online. Do you like philosophy class? Do you like online classes? Why? What caused you to like online classes? Think about it this way. If you had a choice, would you have taken this class face to face or would you still have taken it online? Well, what is it about online classes that you're taking this class online that you would have taken it anyway, independent of whether or not it was the only option? Now, if you indeed would have taken this class face to face, if it was offered face to face, and nevertheless you're taking it online, then you got to explain why is it that you have to take it online. Now, one thing you have to realize is that I need you to be super detailed. Imagine that I'm from another planet. I don't know what's going on in terms of Earth, and I don't know you at all. The more that you break things down specifically, the better. So, always be thinking, can I break this down in further detail in terms of causes and events? It's always better to over communicate. It's always better to give me too much detail. This is especially true when you're trying to show me that you can think or unpack your causal history in terms of what led you to take Philosophy 1301 online like a metaphysical determinist, as it has been defined in a lecture you should have already read. Now, that's going to unpack one we could say causal chain. But then you're also going to need to think about, why are you taking a philosophy class at all? And this is gonna be for most of you the causal chain that gets you to go way back into your past. Again, as I might have mentioned in writing, you should have by now watched a video where I am asking a student about her present reality and her situation, and you saw how I kept asking her questions to figure out what was the causal chain or set of causal chains in her lived experience and her personal story that led to her to have some kind of current reality. And so you saw we went way back into her past, and that's what I need you to do as well. So why are you even taking a philosophy class? What can you connect that to? How many things can you connect it to in the present? One way to think about this is, how is philosophy associated to any goals you have, any commitments you have, obligations, desires, wants, needs? As soon as you identify some goals, obligations, wants, desires, or needs associated with why you're taking philosophy at all, you can also think about this. Would you take philosophy just for fun? Would you just take it, period, if it was totally up to you? Okay, so again, now we're not thinking about free will. So when you're writing this up, remember, you're trying to show me that you can unpack your causal history for something. That is why you're taking Philosophy 1301 online, or what has led to that. What is the series of causes and events that have led to that? Now remember, causes, they can be financial, economical, they can be environment, how you were raised, childhood experiences, middle school experiences, educational experiences, cultural experiences, experience with, in social media, people that you've met, people that you haven't met but looked up to and have been role models to you, job experiences that you've had, conversations that you've had. So again, I'm trying to get you to think as broadly as possible as you can, personal experiences that you've had. I want you to be thinking in as much detail as you can. Again, go to the video if you need to and listen to how I ask the student questions. She'll give me an answer, and then I'll ask her another question to try to get back into her causal chain, more into her past, and or to see if there's any other causes. Even if we didn't go back into her past at one point, we still were able to look at how maybe a variety of factors came together in a given moment to cause something. So when we're thinking like metaphysical determinists, yes, we do want to look at how some causes and events and sets and causal chains impacted a current reality, But that doesn't mean that every time we're unpacking a cause or unpacking something that we're necessarily always each time going to the past. Sometimes we're unpacking multiple causes for one thing that we're describing, an event. All right, so you get a sense of that. And then now I want you to imagine that interview where you heard the student giving her answers. So then what I could have done is I could have asked that student, hey, I want you to write up the story of how you came to want to major in this or that. And I want you to start from the furthest point that we identified and then slowly work through all the causes and events that led to this present reality. That's what you're going to do. But first, you have to know what you're talking about. And you might actually find that as you're writing your paragraphs, it becomes more clear to you what you're doing. So you have to just kind of start brainstorming, start questioning, start thinking, start writing. Don't get stuck saying, I don't know what to write. Do some brainstorming, get some initial ideas out there, and then ask yourself some more questions. Look at what you wrote down. So if you say, I did A because of B, in other words, B caused A, then you can say, and you're not sure where to go from there. We'll write that down. A caused B, whatever A stands for and whatever B stands for. And then you can say, well, what caused me to do B? Is there more than one cause? Were there multiple causes? If so, what are the multiple causes of B? And then what you can do is you can look at the multiple causes of B as and then say, well, what caused those multiple causes? Do you see what I'm saying? So each time you identify a cause for something, for an event, you can then look and say, well, what caused that cause? So now I can say, okay, so B caused A, C, D, and E caused B. Well, what caused C? What caused D? What caused E? And so you might, find that method works as well. So I'm giving you a bunch of tips and help. So let me just demonstrate like how you might do it, by yourself. So let's say that my assignment is to explain like a metaphysical determinist, how it is that I came to be teaching philosophy at Dallas College, okay? So I'm thinking, well, I know that I had to apply for the job, so I applied. I applied for the job and I got it. Well, that might be true, and my applying for the job caused it, but that's not enough. So what caused me? See, now I'm asking about the cause. I have a job at Dallas College as a professor. That's A. The cause B is that I applied for it. Okay? Now I can ask, well, what caused B? So at first, B is just being mentioned as a cause for A. I'm a college professor, right, at Dallas College. But now I'm asking, well, what caused B? So then you look to see, well, how did that cause come to be? So what you're going to find as you do your write-up is that you might say that B is the cause of A, but that B itself is also an effect or an outcome of some other cause. Now, there are other factors that led to me being a college professor. It's not just applying for the job, right? So that's one causal chain I can then go, is me applying for the job. And I can go back further to explain, well, why did I apply to be a professor at Dallas College? But there's another interlocking causal chain, okay? And so the other causal chain is, okay, so hold on just a second. Sorry for the interruption. I really didn't want to stop because I had somebody approaching my door and then they walked away and I had to check that out. Okay, so I've got that. So I definitely put that in my write-up, what I have so far. But at the same time, I'm thinking, well, why am I even teaching philosophy? What got me interested in teaching philosophy? How did that come to be? Okay, that's definitely going to push me back into my past. So now I've got two strands of two strands of causes that interlock to lead to me becoming a philosophy professor. So one is, let's go back to the first one. So I said that I applied for the job. Well, what caused that to happen? What caused me to apply for a job? Well, I wanted to move back to Dallas. Ooh, I identified a want. Okay, what is that want? A want is like a desire or goal. So it's a psychological state. So I've identified a psychological cause. A psychological cause of me doing the physical process of applying for the job to be a professor was a desire that I turned into a goal. What was that? To move back to Dallas. Okay, and now I'm going to try to start thinking like I'm just thinking about this, like I'm not really talking to you. Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate. I'm going to pretend you're not there, and this is kind of what you're doing. Of course, you can type this out, you can write it, Or you could even record it and then type it, okay? Record it and then use transcription software to type it, or to get it typed and then you just clean it up. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, I had a desire, a goal to move back to Dallas. So that's definitely that psychological factor. But now I'm thinking, well, why did I want to move back to Dallas? What caused that desire? What caused me to have the goal of moving back to Dallas? Well, my grown children live here. I knew they were going to start having kids, and so I wanted to be around my future grandchildren at the time. So there's another desire. I had a desire that was related to family. I had this goal of being around my grandchildren and my children. Oh, so that's a cause of me wanting to move back to Dallas. But truth be told, okay, but also I have my family here. But truth be told, I was in love. So love, a feeling, an emotion caused me to want to move back to Dallas. I'm getting kind of personal here, but I mean, I'm kind of asking you to do the same. So, okay, going back into my mode. Love made me, I reconnected. So how did this feeling of love come to exist in my person, in my psychology, that I wanted to move back to Dallas? Well, I reconnected with my boyfriend from middle school, from 1986. Yeah. Well, what caused me to reconnect with him? Facebook. Well, how did Facebook cause? What was the cause of that? Well, he appeared in my timeline. Actually, I ignored him, but then he contacted me. So this person, I fell in love with a person, and what caused me that is that my boyfriend from the 80s found me 3 decades later in Facebook and messaged me, and that caused me to start talking to him again, and then the rest is history. We started to fall in love and talked about getting married, and so I had another reason to be here. So relationships, the desire to be near my grandchildren, my children, family, and someone that I thought might be my husband. So I had these goals and desires that were these causes. Yes. Now, I guess I could go back. Why I was on Facebook? Well, as a developing social media, I was kind of interested in it. So that's why I was on social media. And I guess I was on that because I had time. Okay, so pause. So each and everything that I just said, if I was doing this assignment for grade, I would then take each and every detail and write it in the form of a paragraph. Now, when you're going through this process, you start from a present moment and you work backwards, and you try to unpack as many causes for a given event or a cause that was first an event as you can, and then you keep moving back, okay? But then when you're doing the paragraph, you present in chronological order. So if I was to write up this segment of being a metaphysical determinist, thinking like a metaphysical determinist and trying to excavate the causes of me applying to Dallas College for a professorship, I would start with, I must have had time. My having time was a cause of me doing what? Getting on Facebook. And then me getting on Facebook and having an account caused me or led me to eventually communicate or be found by my 1980s boyfriend. And that caused us to reconnect and to fall in love. So do you see how I'm now working backwards from the thought process, from the questioning? Okay, so I could spend a whole paragraph just on that causal chain. But the other causal chain, I'm not going to go through all of that, but you get the sense, but I'll give you a gist of how that might proceed, is why did I even become interested in philosophy? Okay, so why did I become interested in philosophy? Well, this would help to explain why I'm even a philosophy professor. So I guess that's the other thing. So I talked about what caused me to apply to Dallas College, but what even caused me to be a professor or a philosophy professor? Well, I remember that taking a philosophy class at SMU during my junior year, Southern Methodist University, and I remember I was learning about Locke's take on identity and Descartes' take on how there's an element of us that is a unique individual and that it's a thinking being. And I remember really being fascinated with that idea and how transformative and how powerful those philosophical ideas about the self were and how enlightened I felt. And I felt kind of freed and liberated and enlightened and more self-aware, and that really had an impact on me. And so I actually decided that I really liked philosophy. And now, why was I taking that class at SMU, that philosophy class? How did I come to have those experiences and learning about those philosophers and what they had to say about self? Well, when I got to SMU as a junior, they told me that I had to have a minor. So my major was English, but then they told me I had to have a minor. And so I chose a minor in philosophy. Well, what caused that? What caused me to minor in philosophy? When I was a community college student at Dallas College in the early 90s, I remember I read The Tao of Pooh, a book. It was about Eastern philosophy, and they were talking about how horrible Western classical thinking is. That's the kind of philosophy I teach, by the way. And so I thought, I need to understand this Western philosophy, this bad stuff that this other book is talking about. And so I decided that I was going to see what this bad stuff was about. And so I chose to minor in philosophy, and I learned that I actually liked the Western classical philosophy. And so, of course, that goes hand in hand with me liking the lessons that I learned from two philosophers about self and identity. So what caused me to have to choose a minor was, again, that I transferred to SMU. Well, what caused me to transfer to SMU? Well, I was a Dallas County Community College student at El Centro, and I found out there were transfer scholarships. Oh, okay. Well, what caused you to be a student at El Centro? Oh, a goal. I had a desire. My desire was to be able to type 40 words a minute and work as a bilingual receptionist or something, secretary, because I heard you could make $10 an hour. Oh, so the thing that caused me to have the goal or desire to become a bilingual receptionist was that I heard that I could make $10 an hour if I could speak Spanish and type. And that caused me, something I heard before I was even a college student, caused me to apply to El Centro or look at El Centro and see what they had to offer. And I saw something called Secretarial Sciences, which caused me to take some classes. That caused me to take some core classes, 15 hours, which included English. During that time, I met a professor, and he was telling me about the Tao of Pooh. That's what caused me to read that, which then caused me to be interested in philosophy. But also, I'm now realizing I didn't get my Secretarial Sciences degree. That's what they used to call stuff. Office managers, office assistants, they used to be called Secretarial Science. But I'm realizing that what caused me to not pursue that career or that certificate or diploma was that I hated that job or doing that kind of work in the president's office at El Centro. Yes, I worked in the president's office with the president of El Centro in my early 20s. But I found that I was really doing well in my core classes, especially liberal arts classes. And this caused me to rethink my educational goals, which caused me to decide that I wanted a bachelor's in English and that maybe I would take some other classes. And so then when I transferred to SMU and I had to choose a minor, my earlier conversations with the professor caused me to choose philosophy, which led to me encountering those philosophers. Okay, so do you see how I was thinking through the multiple causes and stuff like that? Do you see how I went further and further and further back into my causal chain to unpack those causes? So again, I would then go in reverse order to write up a paragraph. And I would start with one day, in fact, I can remember one day I was riding a bus. So literally my paragraph would say, one day I was riding a bus and talking to someone, and they told me that if you type 40 words a minute, and speak Spanish, you can make $10 an hour. This caused me to look at the community college, El Centro to be specifically, to see if they offered some classes to be able to get those skills and that kind of job. This led me to become a major in secretarial science, which caused me to have to take these core classes. As you're writing up your causal history for your causal chains, I want to see you saying things like A caused B. This event caused this to happen. So you might find that, you say A caused B, or when you're thinking it through, it's like, well, what caused A? B caused A. What caused B? What caused C? But then you're talking about it in the reverse order. So then you're saying C caused B, and then B caused A. So, but like if I was just to type up that last chain of causes that I just unpacked by reflecting and thinking and remembering, and you can speculate. If you don't remember exact details, just just kind of try to guess or speculate. If you can't remember for sure, you might interview people and ask your mom or your dad or your sisters. Maybe they remember something. What's also interesting is thinking about how other people are part of your causal chain and how they themselves caused you. Well, what caused them to be causes? You don't really have to go into all that, but you could. Just mostly focus on yourself, though. Okay, so mention other people only enough to talk about what caused you to do something. But, I would type it in reverse, and so I was just giving you how I would literally type it out, right? So then I decided to major in psychoturial science. This led me to take core classes. This caused me to really enjoy my English classes and to meet a professor who told me about this book. Reading this book created a desire in me to, this is what I'm typing up, created a desire in me to get a bachelor's degree, major in English. Because as a result of this, I was presented by an SMU advisor with the need to pick a minor. And my past experiences with the professor, the Tao of Pooh, how much I enjoyed reading the Tao of Pooh and learning from the Tao of Pooh that Western philosophy was bad, all of these things then caused me to pick philosophy as my minor. Okay, so when you're doing your causal write-up, notice some of the words that I used, okay? A caused B, right? So A caused B, A led to B. Use the word desires when possible. This led to a desire. This caused a desire. This caused a want. This led to a want. This resulted in a hope. This resulted in a call, in a goal. So try to incorporate words like that show that you're reporting your causal chain in a way that a metaphysical determinist would. Okay? So at least 2 paragraphs that get at what is your causal history such that you are now taking Philosophy 1301 as an online class. Okay, so what is that? You're probably going to have to unpack at least 2 causal chains. One, why you're taking this as an online class and not a face-to-face class. There are no wrong answers as long as they're true of you and you stay on point. 2, why are you even taking philosophy? How far back in your past can you go? How many kinds of causes can you think about? Again, think about, personal experiences, interactions that you've had with other people, previous classes, prior education, commitments you've made, prior choices you've made. What I do not want to see is that you start talking about free will. Do not start talking about free will or not having free will, because metaphysical determinism is not about that. If you don't know what I'm talking about or you need clarification, reread the lecture that is above the link to this video, because I am very concise but very clear about how metaphysical determinism is not a theory about free will. It's a theory about everything being caused. Everything. So just one more point. As you're thinking about and writing up your causal history as to why you're taking Philosophy 1301 online, make sure that you understand that when we say everything is caused, like you learned in the reading and Learn Smart, this is not only choices and decisions, but it's any desires, feelings, emotions, wants, likes, interest, preferences. All of these things are caused according to the thesis of universal causation, or what I'm calling metaphysical determinism. These things, these mental psychological things, are caused as much as anything else. When I dropped this marker, what caused it to fall was gravity and my letting it go. Now, I turned this upside down. What caused it to go upside down is that I physically turned the pen with my hand. What caused that? Well, my desire to demonstrate something. What caused the desire? What caused my desire to demonstrate to you that this, causes? My desire to demonstrate something to you is my desire to help you do well. So I'm just trying to make sure that you think about causes in the appropriate way to make sure that you don't talk about free will. I'll have you talk about free will, but not for these 2 paragraphs.